we're going to learn about functions. So in Alice, right now, all we've done is things in my first method. And when we do calculations, let's do one for slope, or actually, we'll do a simple calculation. Okay, we'll set x to x times 2. Okay, so x, it gets multiplied by 2, and no matter what, it's always going to multiply by 2. In my first method, it'll get really clogged up. In your calculator labs, it was getting pretty clogged up. So we are going to create functions which do the calculations for us. So you'll go to the function tab, and these are all the functions that the world already has programmed for you. We're going to create our own. So in Scene is where you can add a function. So we're going to create, it's going to solve a problem for us. Our problem is, given a number, we want it multiplied by 2. Obviously, we'll get more complicated as we go on, but you have to figure out what return type is it. You could return a decimal number, whole number, Boolean, or a string. We're going to return a whole number, and we're going to call it doubler, because that's what it's doing. So when you create one, notice it's in green. Methods are in typically blue. Functions are in green. Okay, and typically functions have parameters. So a parameter is a variable that you provide when you call the function. Similar to if you ever had an object do something, like move, these are called parameters. You have to say how it moves. Forward and to. Because move by itself wouldn't work very well unless you said extra pieces of information to go along with it. A direction and an amount. So in doubler, we are going to give a parameter that represents what number we want doubled. So we'll call it original value. Okay, you can call it anything you like as long as you use camel case. Now, if I want to use that value, you can use, actually the easiest way is just dragging it into the world. Nope, I lied, sorry. I meant assign. You can assign. Okay, I just remembered, Alice, if you want to use this function, there's a couple ways you would have to, or this variable, you would actually have to make a variable, and we want it to, what are we doing with that number? We're doubling it. So I'm going to make a variable which is equal to, I can set it to anything, and now I can use that number. And what do I want to do with that number? I want to multiply it by 2. Okay, so now I have a function that, given a number, it calculates the number multiplied by 2. I could do this with the distance formula. I would have 4 parameters. I could do it with all of those things we did in the calculations lab. But now, when you ask a question, you have to give an answer. This is the important part. There is a button called return. This is saying what we've calculated what the answer should be. Now we need to return the answer. If this was called double value, it would say return double value. Okay, so we've successfully made a function that, given a number, it'll say the answer of it. Now let's look how you call the function. Okay, so to call the function, we could decide, what are we doing with that number? Well, we want the Orca to say that number. Okay, so double the value of 8 is, and then we're going to call a whole number we're just giving it a placeholder. Something's going to go in that spot 0. That spot 0, we're going to put the function, which it's not part of the Orca. When we made it in scene, it was a scene function. So it's not in Orca's function, it's in this, which is the scene. Notice this was not here before we created the doubler function. You can drag this in right here, and notice it asks you what is the original value. I'm going to make a custom number of 8. So this will say double the value of 8 is, it'll call this function, and it sets the original value to 8. So answer takes 8 times 2, and it saves it into answer, and it returns the answer. So the Orca will say double the value of 8 is 16. So now questions? Now we can add in all sort of if statements inside of here. For example, maybe this doubler always makes it positive. So we could say if the answer, we want to now do, if the answer is less than 0, what could we do to that answer? Make it positive. What would we want to multiply answer by to make it positive if it's less than 0? You can multiply it by -1. So if, in your if statements, now you need to ask, what kind of if statement am I asking? I'm asking a whole number question. And you've seen inequalities before. Inequalities are saying if some number is less than another number. Well, I want to ask if answer is less than 0. If answer is less than 0, I want to change what answer equals. I can drag an answer here and set it to, you kind of have to drag in 0 and then change 0. I want it to be answer math times a custom number for -1. So here I don't need to put anything in the else statement. Why don't I need to put anything in the else statement? Who knows? So you don't need to put anything in this else statement because only if it's negative do you change it. Otherwise, it stays the same. Okay? So, in the conclusion,
like, comment, and subscribe.
Like, comment, and subscribe.